Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another political episode. So, we gotta go back to talking about the midterms, because we got more midterm election news. As there is a new, of course, PSYOP going around, the Democrats, remember, they're colliding with the liberal media, and they're creating this giant PSYOP. Now they're saying that Republicans are scared. Republicans are afraid that they're going to be trounced on election day. Keep in mind, why would the Republicans be afraid of being trounced if to a party with an approval rating of 21%? Okay? Why do the Republicans think that they're going to be trounced and that they're going to be beaten by a bunch of politicians that are so out of touch to the average everyday American? So, I know it's too early to get, and I know a lot of people say, oh, you're being too complacent. I know, and I don't mean to. And what I mean is, yeah, I think it's way too early to kind of determine which way the race is going. If it's done traditionally, this would be the Democrats' year. But of course, 2022 was unprecedented. It was a big it wasn't a blue wave, but it was a good year for Democrats. And not so much for Republicans. Republicans underperformed. That demoralized the Republicans, and that moralized the Democrats. It had this big effect there. And if 2022 is becoming the new precedent, then we could see a pretty competitive 2026. And it's kind of looking like that, to be honest. We have already established that Republicans will carry the Senate. There is no pathway to victory for the Democrats in the Senate. But the Democrats' main deal is actually determining the future of the Senate in 2028. Because if they manage to flip like Maine and North Carolina, that puts the Senate up to grabs in 2028. So that's something Republicans really need to do in the Senate. They need to expand. And unfortunately, it seems as if expansion is not going to work so well for Republicans. Republicans thought they could easily pick up a seat from New Hampshire by running Chris Sununu. As you can clearly see, Chris Sununu has declined a run for the United States Senate. Why has he done this? A lot of people have different reasons. Red Eagle Politics says he's probably going to go for the presidency. I disagree. I think this guy is declined to run. Mainly, I mean, he could be running for the presidency. He could. But in regards to Chris Sununu's case, I think Sununu knows that he's got the Trump endorsement. When Trump endorsed Sununu's still very salty towards Trump. Remember, Sununu didn't endorse Trump. Sununu campaigned against Trump. And yeah, he's a conservative in such, but he doesn't necessarily like the attacks that Trump delivered to Sununu. The attacks for Sununu endorsing Haley. And that kind of made Sununu pretty salty. So what I think happened is Sununu is sabotaging Trump because he got the Trump endorsement, and Trump allegedly said that he needs to win. He really needs to run. Sununu, he's like, no, sorry, I'm not going to run because you called me this and this. You called me a bad governor. I'm not going to spoonful anything more into your mouth. I think that's what Sununu's doing. That doesn't mean that's actually what he's doing. But in my view, this is sort of like a sabotage towards Trump. Because Sununu has had strained relations with Trump ever since the 2024 primaries. But Sununu's out of the picture. Whether it's Trump's fault or not, Trump did the right thing. He made an endorsement and said, hey, look, this is what I want to win the primaries. And if Sununu had a problem with it, it's Sununu's problem. And if Sununu wanted to bail out because she got the Trump endorsement, that's your fault. But you're going to have a hard time, Mr. Sununu, if you run in a presidential primary in 2028 or whatever that may be. You're going to have a hard time because you will be characterized as a guy that ditched the Trump endorsement. And ultimately, was salty towards Trump, the party of MAGA, the party of Trump. This is now the party of MAGA. This is now the party of Trump. And you got to abide it to its rules. So if you want to run under the party of Trump and the party of MAGA, you got to be a MAGA candidate. And it looks like Mr. Sununu, Governor Sununu, is not being such that. But who do we have in this case? Scott Brown. I hate to say it, but he's the only guy we got. Why am I not crazy with Scott Brown? Here's the deal. Scott Brown, I understand and sympathize with him and support him back when he was the Massachusetts U.S. Senator. Why would I do such a thing? Because I knew that, he had to be liberal. He had to be a progressive in order to keep that seat red, okay? He needs to get those moderate Democrats to go out and vote for him. He needs that. And although 2010, yes, he won in a special election with high Republican turnout, but in 2012, he lost to Elizabeth Warren. Because of his liberal views, Brown did pretty well around the Boston area, but Elizabeth Warren ended up unseating him. It's just Massachusetts is just too blue. And as a result, what does Scott Brown do? Instead of, staying in Massachusetts, this is when I get pretty critical. He goes to New Hampshire, and he thinks that he's going to win there. Mr. Brown is totally doesn't take into consideration that New Hampshire is the exact opposite of Massachusetts. It is a small government, low taxes, pro-gun state. It is the only state of such ideology in the region of New England. And you got Republicans in New Hampshire that are very pro-gun, very small government, very pro-low taxes. And then you got this Republican who's now from New Hampshire, Scott Brown, campaigning as with former anti-gun control views, or I should say gun control views, not anti-gun control, gun control views, and along with extreme abortion views, as well as big government and maybe some small taxes, but that's not good enough. He could say, "Oh well, now I support gun rights." Well, now you're just being a Kamala Harris, Mr. Brown. That doesn't work anymore because people know your grift. People know your record. Republicans are going to look at you to say, hey, look, you're the very first Republican to vote on an assault weapons ban. That's not a good look for Scott Brown. That's not a good look to get Republicans from New Hampshire to vote for you. Not to mention, New Hampshire's not like a Vermont. Scott Brown isn't going to win in a landslide like Phil Scott from Vermont. No, because Vermont is a solid blue state. You need to run a liberal there. Maybe if you run Scott Brown in Vermont, he would win. I doubt that because the Republicans of Vermont, some of them are Trump Republicans, but some of them will say, you know what? We'll vote for the liberal Republican because that's the only Republican we can get to win. But you can obviously see that. And that, of course, you can take a look. Well, what about his record? Like, he was defeated by Shaheen by how much? Oh, he was just defeated by Shaheen by 2 points. Yeah, he got lucky. New Hampshire was much more very conservative back then in 2014. But, I mean, it's been 10, 12 years later, 11 years later, 12 years later, 2026. We are having Scott Brown run 12 years later. And we can't become complacent with this result, showing Shaheen just defeating Brown by like 4 points. This could totally change. And to be honest, I would like to see Brown, who looks like he would become the nominee, win the election, and we will totally back him if he becomes a nominee, because who else do we got? I don't think we have much. We already have a strong Democratic opponent, as it is, running for this Senate seat, and that is Mr. Pappas, Congressman Pappas, Chris Pappas, from New Hampshire's 1st Congressional District. It's going to be hard enough to get those votes coming in anyway, so I have doubts. So this was the bit of bitter news for Republicans, looking down, okay, this is probably why the Democrats are saying that Republicans are running scared in 2026, and that's obviously not the case. Yes, this is probably, we were very optimistic in New Hampshire, then Sununu went and flipped that around, but there are other highlights. For instance, in I want to believe Pennsylvania's 7th Congressional District. Going to Pennsylvania, you can see okay, so this is a pretty tossed up district, consisting, so Pennsylvania's 7th Congressional District, we know we flipped this district, this pretty blue district, in 2024. Ryan McKenzie ended up flipping it out, taking out Susie Wild. Wild has been somewhat known as a strong Democrat, which was looking at her previous electoral history, although her strength dialed down over time. You'll see 2018, she won the special election, I want to believe, in 18. Yeah, look at this. Wow. Okay, so that of course was a different district, but you'll see she was ousted. But now she says that she will not run for this election. She will not seek re-election. She insists that she wants to find a better and stronger Democratic candidate to win the seat back. As for Ryan McKenzie, I would think he has gotten a good record at him. I don't really know his approval rating, but I'll just say he has the opportunity, he has the advantage of being the incumbent. Voters are likely going to give him more of a chance the second time around than it will be the fourth time around. Depending on how his voting and his term went first time around, he might get reelected. I mean, taking a look at the areas he's carrying, you'll see Northampton County is the county that is somewhat liberal, somewhat conservative. But you also have Lehigh County, this county right here, that's Carbon, I want to believe. So, yeah, these counties, 60%. Lehigh is also more of a, it's not the biggest solid Democrat county. We never usually say it's actually Lehigh. We never usually see Lehigh County being so democratic, and although it really rarely votes Republican, it's not as solid Democrat as you may think. In this scenario, I would describe McKenzie's victory somewhat of he was defeated in Lehigh by like 5 points. Northampton, he was probably defeated by 1 point in that county. And therefore, that was enough to carry Mr. McKenzie over the line. To be honest, I think McKenzie would opt to double down and get more votes when it comes to that. Yes, McKenzie really needs to depend on turnout, meaning that, Republicans, they need to show up and vote. There's also the coattail effect that Governor Shapiro could deliver the Democratic nominee of the seat, whatever that may be. But then again, we never know. Maybe the voters it really does depend if the people in this district approve of Congressman McKenzie, and if they're going to, of course, bring him over. So I'm pretty optimistic about this seat. This is a seat we gotta keep. And also, the House of Representatives, we gotta go on the offensive, and we gotta go on the defense also. make sure that we're flipping and keeping certain areas, like keeping the seats we won in 24. And also going on the defense, taking areas like the Ohio Coastal District, which consists of Erie, Toledo, Sandusky, along with flipping even North Carolina's 1st district would be easy. There's also redistricting in Ohio, if in case you didn't catch this. Redistricting, Republicans are they have a big majority in the Ohio state legislature. They get to determine the map. Hopefully, what I think will happen is the smart thing to do is probably descend some land in Ohio. This is the district. Trade off some land to this district, coastal district right here. That would be enough to get Republicans through, flip that district and also this district right here. It's hard to see because it's a United States map, but I am pretty optimistic. However, I would say the Susan Wild news is actually the least exciting of them all, although it was, of course, a big win that she didn't run. But there's also North Carolina. Now, why do I say North Carolina is a win? Because there's no real Republican running in North Carolina, as much as we want to get Tom Tillis out. But the good news is we have Willie Nickel running. And the reason why I say Willie Nickel, who is the former U.S. representative from North Carolina's 13th congressional district, which is this area, the reason why is we want this guy, Roy Cooper, to stay out. If Roy Cooper runs in this Senate race, Republicans are screwed. This North Carolina race is not going to be a toss-up. It's probably going to be a Democrat win. You'll see Roy Cooper is already trouncing Tillis in the polls, although he is doing pretty well. Tillis, his polls are also pretty underestimated, and this was the case in 2020, as every outlet seemed to be a toss-up or a flip. You'll see Cunningham was predicted to flip this Senate seat until he was caught with an ugly scandal, which tore his campaign apart within. 2014, let's see how the polling was there. All right, this is the Republican primary. Then again, look, Tillis is once again being crushed by the incumbent, Kay Hagan. So I would say if you start seeing Democrat polls showing the said congressman Willie Nickel trouncing Tillis, I would not be surprised. This has happened twice in a row now. Just like Trump, Tillis's polling is pretty underestimated, mainly because it doesn't help that he has made some stupid mistakes in regards to actually marching outside with the BLM, talking about gun control. Same thing, the same dumb mistakes that Corden has done, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, now you'll notice he's getting pretty cozy and with Trump. Supposedly, a lot of people are seeing that, but nothing's changed in regards to his status as a Republican. He still has that rhino horn on his forehead. That's probably not going to go away until he gets more Trumpian. Otherwise, he's just too close to Mitch McConnell. That's not a good look for him. But I would not pull the plug on the senator just yet. And I think Trump ought to go and endorse him, even though I think he will. I don't think there is challenging Tom Tillis, to be honest with you. I think he's in this to win it. Although Don Brown is going to run, Andy Nilsen. They're too irrelevant, though. Tillis has the upper hand, and I honestly think that then again, if Tillis will win the said the primary, and in order to do so, you know what I mean. So yeah, it's going to be a hard one. He's trying to get cozy with Trump. I would say if he is nominated, Trump and Republicans ought to put lots of money into this race. And I'm really hoping that Republicans really do that. In regards, I don't see any much polling indicating that this would be a close race or a race between Tillis. Like, all these are Democrat polling. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, no one can beat Roy Cooper, it seems. But what would a Tillis, Kyle Cunningham victory versus Tillis look like? First, I would say maybe Tillis would win the white non-college graduate by 70%. White college graduates, I think Tillis would get more of the liberal votes. Well, Wally Winkle is also getting some of those votes too. Maybe around the same 46% for Wally Winkle. That seems to be best enough. Black African American, 92%. Let's see, 90% instead. We'll keep it at 8%. And then we have Hispanic. Hispanic is probably going to be 50, 60, 59, 58. We'll go ahead and give Mr. Tillis an edge for the Hispanic vote. So Tillis is so far winning in my prediction by 1.9%. As for Asian American, I would say 60%. 4% advantage. So yeah, this is a 2% victory. So this is pretty much what I think it's going to look like. As for turnout, yeah, let's adjust the. I'm not so sure about turnout, but turnout I would say would be a little bit lower, but let's do it. 70%. I would say maybe 68%. Let's drop it to 68. All right, now you'll see that it dropped significantly, 1.4. That's because of the disadvantage that Republicans have with early voting. I mean, they do pretty well in North Carolina. We'll just say it drops to 70% for the white college graduate, African American. I think that vote would drop significantly, like 64%. Now it's back up to 2 point. Hispanic American, 45. Let's do 45%. And then there's Asian and other. I would say that would go to 43. All right, so this is my prediction. Nothing really changes. Yeah, Pasquotank would go to 0.4%. You could say Pasquotank would be Republican regardless. But it kind of looks like, if you notice, a Kamala Harris somewhat scenario. But this is what I'm thinking it looks like. Well, except for this county right here, Anson County, a county that Trump won in 24. It's staying for Winkle by 3 points. But this is what the map suggests it looks like. But otherwise, if it looks like this, I'm not so worried. It's really what determines Tillis' victory is, will Republicans get out and vote? Will the Trump vote still go to Tillis despite the views on gun control, the same-sex marriage thing, which I think is irrelevant nowadays? It's more do you support transgender insanity? That's more of the pressing issue, which I would assume Tillis doesn't, and he better not. If he dare supports this, his career is over. But this is what it's looking like right now in regards to a Winkle versus Tillis win. It looks like this. And that concludes North Carolina. We go to the state of Michigan, because Republicans, I would believe this is the best news Republicans have ever gotten, and this is regards to the Michigan gubernatorial race. John James, the popular, well-known U.S. representative from Michigan's 10th congressional district, is running for governor. And I've pushed John James so hard to do this. Why? I pushed him to run for the Senate, but hey, he's running for governor. That's good. Who is John James? Why is this such a big deal? Well, yes, John James is the congressman from Michigan's 10th congressional district. Yes, that means this is a vulnerable seat that Republicans really need to play defense in. Don't get me wrong, I'm not being complacent in regards to this. This is, what district is that called? Yes, it's coming from Michigan. It's coming, yes, right here. The 10th district, 51% to 45%. It's more of a Republican district, but it's pretty compatible. Like, it has a lot of Macomb County in it, and that is, of course, the working class Republican county. And we will have to find a better candidate to replace James in regards to the House of Representatives. It's Macomb County. I'm sure we'll find someone, and we hope Democrats don't take advantage of this. This is a seat that Democrats could flip, and that will determine the House of Representatives. That's the con news about this, but I would rather try to get an at-large seat than lose one seat in the House of Representatives, where we have different multiple paths to victory in the House of Representatives. So you use your cards correctly. I think John James is the only guy we got to win the governorship. He is along with William Knoll, which that is not William Knoll, that's Gretchen Whitmer. I don't know what's that there. And Eric Nesbitt, who is the minority leader of the Michigan Senate, are running. And I would think John James is ultimately the best guy, the ultimate guy to win this. He is a U.S. representative after all. And being a U.S. representatives usually win unless they're not being cheated out like with identity politics, very similar to what happened in 2024 in Maryland. But John James, absolutely love him. Why? You'll see 2018 was a bad performance. Yeah, he was running against Debbie Stabenow. No one really knew John James. He was a politician. But Debbie Stabenow was a juggernaut. Looking at the previous result, she won double digits against Pete Hortstra. And it's not that people didn't like John James. I think a lot of people love John James. In fact, John James really did take out Stabnow's record. It's that people love Debbie Stabenow. And although Stabenow was dying down in popularity, let's see, 2006, 2012 was a peak for her. But 2018, of course, it was hard. She was like the Amy Klobuchar of Michigan. It was hard for John James to beat her. And overall, this race was overall decided. Solid Democrat, likely Democrat, leaning Democrat. It was pretty much decided. But 2 years later, John James runs again against somewhat of a popular congressman we know as Gary Peters. Peters is somewhat popular. 2014, he did somewhat good against Terry Lynn Land in this said race. But look at this. Much better. You'll see in 2020, James managed to win in Kent County, which holds Grand Rapids. And that's impactful because Grand Rapids is such a big city. Sure, he didn't win the election, and he should have. If he carried Eaton, that could have been enough to carry him through. Actually, no. Peters won by 1 point. You'll see John James overperformed the polling expectations. Look at this. Wow. Yeah, it was an overperformance. The polls were wrong, and John James almost won. He flipped. He won in counties that Trump lost in, like Mecklen. That's not Mecklenburg. Muskegon County, Kent, and Lalanu counties. Trump won in Eaton, although Eaton is pretty much a Republican county there, and then now. But if you are going to say that a Republican is going to run, like John James, what would a gubernatorial race look like? First off, who's the Democratic nominee is going to be? Well, you got Garland Gilchrist, and then you have Jocelyn Benson. I think it would be a very close primary for the Michigan gubernatorial race between these two. They're very influential. Jocelyn Benson, she is pretty popular in regards to her performances. 2018, 52% to Mary Trenderlang, who got 43%. And then in 2022, you could say it was abortion or something like that. She doubles her margin, 55.86%, winning in a lot of Trump counties. But overall, she is a difficult person to beat. I would say this would be a very, very close race. I'm not so sure if Benson would beat James in somewhat of a race. If it's a James versus Benson race, what would that look like? Well, I think it would really look pretty close. First off, let's see. I would say 60%, 38% for the white non-college graduate. Republicans and their turnout in Michigan has been not that good lately. I would say 69% or something, maybe 70% to be fair as of right now. And then you got the white college graduate. That is going to, I would say, maybe 56%. All right, African American. It does depend. The African American Democrats would not be happy if they really like Garland Gilchrist a lot. They might not show up to vote for Benson. In fact, some might back James, even though I think the liberal African Americans won't back James regardless. But I would say maybe at least 90%. 8%, I would think, would back James. Hispanic vote, it has changed over the course of time. I would say in this race, it would be like 51%, 52, 53, about 53%. 53% in favors of Jocelyn Benson. Asian voters, I would say it would be close, 49%. I would say drop this down to 59. White college graduate turnout, probably, it would be lower. I would say 81. 81%. Hispanic and Latino, I would think this would drop down to like 45%. And the Asian voters, 44%. Okay, so in my prediction, Benson wins by 4.5. We are going against someone, and then forbid Benson not get nominated. We'd rather go against Garland Gilchrist in this. If Benson gets nominated, we're fighting against a woman with a big electoral history record, and it's just going to be too complicated. we'd rather not have to do that. I mean, she did lose in 2010, but it's changed over the course of time. Michigan's changed. Well, I mean, she lost Oakland, and she's carrying Oakland by a lot now, 2022. Look at this, 60% in Oakland County. Part of why Christina Carremo lost so badly, but you got that. But yeah, sure, Mike Duggan allegedly would help bring the Republican. I mean, if Duggan takes away votes from Benson, that would help. That would help James in the long run. That would be good, but it really does depend on how strong his polling's doing. Because as far as I know, the polling I've seen in third parties, yeah, let's see, Macomb County, he might get a boost in Macomb, because that's a key county to watch, because he's from that area. He's the favorite son there. So ultimately, I think James running in this election is a good thing. The primaries are what you need to watch. And I would say root for Gilchrist. I think rooting for Benson's too risky. You can hope that the African-American vote would revolt. The African-American Democrats would revolt, that Gilchrist didn't get in, and that Benson got in. They would refuse to show up. But that's too like a storyline. That's the perfect scenario. I don't think that's really going to happen. And yeah, I just don't want to see Benson as a nominee. Michigan has been blue far enough, and we need, of course, new leadership. So ultimately, this is our gubernatorial, Senate race in North Carolina, Michigan, governor's race. Now we have our last election, and that's specifically going to be in Texas, because Ken Paxton is running for the United States Senate in an efforts to unseat the Rhino Republican, John Cornyn. You're going to see here, by primary polling, he's already doing pretty good. Look at this. Wow. But then again, you can't become complacent. You can't think, oh, he's leading in the primary polling. Well, yeah, you'll see part of these polls, some of these polls were dating back to 2022. He could very well win the primaries, mainly because John Cornyn's been so much of a rhino, and I would just encourage him to drop his campaign. It would be an embarrassment for him to ultimately lose Texas, lose his own primary as the incumbent. That would be an embarrassment for him, and his political career would be over as you know it. 2014. Do we have a primary map? No. Yeah, you'll see he was somewhat challenged. Not 59%. A lot of Republicans wouldn't challenge him. So, yeah, is Cornyn in trouble? Kinda. I would say, depending on... Yeah, you'll see 77, 2008. But I want to see Ken Paxton's primary polling. But, yes. No doubt about it, the Republican will probably win the primary. But let's see. Yeah, this is you'll see Paxton is pretty popular as an attorney general. He was impeached. They'll say, oh, he'll lose because he's impeached. Well, that hasn't affected his approval rating. In fact, I think it made it much higher because Texans sympathized with this guy. I wish we do. Let's go to Texas Election Atlas. Here. We do have primary polling. But what I'm trying to say is, it's looking pretty good for Paxton. We can't become complacent with the results. Incumbents usually win the primaries. But hey, maybe Cornyn stayed in there long enough. People are probably just done with Cornyn. I am not going to deny that. And I think, realistically, yes, Republicans do have a fair shot. This is the 2002 John Cornyn polling, which I think he won every county. I think. Let's see. There's some counties that didn't even show up and vote. Yeah, and I think he got nominated straight then and there. But I'm wondering about the primary polling for Attorney General. 2014, there we go. Yeah, it was pretty close primary. You would think ideally, yeah, look at this scribbly map. But I think, oh yes, there was a runoff. So this is irrelevant. Let's do the primary, the runoff. So, numbers-wise, where's Paxton even from? I think this will pretty much tell us where he's from. No, I doubt he's from Borden County. But I do think if this were to be a by average yeah, this is a pretty close 27%, 38%. So I would say this is a double-digit lead. It was getting tighter over time. Let's take out our calculations. I'm trying to find the average. That's 20, a margin of 20, that's good. 34 to 42, so it's getting tighter as more polls are taken, so that's something you got to take into consideration. Paxton's leading by 8 by Victory Insights. You got this poll right here, the most recent. This one's pretty good. He rebounded to 11, so I would say it's like probably 10. I would say 10. A 10-10 Paxton victory. What would that look like? So, first off, I think by areas, I think Paxton would win in the, let's do yellow for Cornyn. Paxton, it would kind of look like a election map because, let's see, you got Republicans, the establishment Republicans used to hold, like, Dallas County, used to be very Republican. The Republicans, they're still alive and around. Some of them are now Democrats. Some of them are just Republicans that voted for Trump but secretly have those neocon views. They could be reaching out to Cornyn, along with Harris County. You got Bexar and even Travis County. Bexar having San Antonio. You got El Paso County. So you got, and I think Paxton would carry Southern Texas. I think Paxton would have better chances of reaching out to those voters. Meanwhile, Tarrant County, let's see. He might as well win up here too, because he is the incumbent. I'm giving more urban areas to Cornyn, but everywhere else, though, Paxton seems to be the winner. I don't think we ever done a primary prediction in a very long time. But this is sort of what I think the primary map would look like. Sort of like a partisan map, but the only thing is you got deep red counties, like the counties above Dallas. I think the county that holds Frisco, whatever that county's name, it's a big Republican county, very populated, as Frisco is a big city. But it's populated, it's urban. You got a mixture of these Rhino neocon Republicans that have occupied the county since forever. And overall, I think that would be enough to give Cornyn that county, along with that neighboring county. Those suburban counties, but yes. Other than that, I think this is pretty much my prediction. That was much easier than I thought. I thought it was going to take a long time. But, like, yeah, sure, Southern Texas is liberal. Oh, you must go for Cornyn. No, it's, first off all, no real population, no real traction, no real neocon traction. A lot of these Republicans in Southern Texas support Trump. So I would think they would back Paxton indefinitely. But this is sort of what a map that I would kind of expect would look like. But anyway, what do you guys think about the news? You got Ken Paxton leading in the polls. You got John James running for governor, an opportunity to flip a longtime Democrat governor seat. You have Susan Wild staying in the... You got Susan Wild staying, actually going away forever, for eternity, and really Democrats having a hard time choosing who they said their nominee is going to be. You also have Wally Winkle so far running in this said Senate race. So far, Mr. Roy Cooper is staying out of it, and he should. So that's really what we have on the ball. So what do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments, and as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.